Hey everybody, welcome to the Trey Angle. Happy New Year. This is so great to finally be back here, back into the flow, back in here with you. And for those listening, I want to say I appreciate you for number one, 2021 and all of the support that you've been given on the podcast, and for you here on YouTube. Thank you so much for showing up. I mean, it means a lot, and I hope you've been getting some value out of this. So with that, this episode is about New Year, new friends. And it's actually something that I did a few weeks back, and just now getting towards getting it out to you guys, and have several right behind it. But what I'm excited about this one is you're going to be able to meet some great friends of mine and a new friend with a guy named Milton. But it's so crazy because this was a spur of the moment podcast, and we had the opportunity, we had the resources, and say, hey, let's do it. So you're going to be able to hear from Abraham, you're going to be able to hear from Mill, like I just shared, and then also Irving, who are all great friends of mine, and I'm excited for y'all to meet them. And we talk about community, we talk about the shifting dynamics of community, and then also what makes community, and some good things, some bad things, and how I kind of go into the digital world that we're living in and how things have shifted for the good, and then also for the, maybe not so good. But really what I want to get at is where two or more are gathered, that's where he lives. And community is a good thing, and I highly recommend for you to get into it, because again, with this changing world, it's easy to disconnect. So anyway, with that said, I really want you guys to dive into this one. I'm excited about it, looking forward to it, and let's go, let's roll. Hey everybody, welcome to the Trey Angle podcast. Today we got a different setup. We're number one in a great little setup in the room. That's the first thing I said when I walked in here. But everybody, welcome to the Trey Angle podcast. I'm excited because we have Abraham, Irving, and Big Mill up in here. And today we're going to be talking community. And this was kind of the spur of the moment. So I was, I'm grateful to do this. So thank y'all.
Absolutely.
Appreciate it.
Man. I'm excited.
So, Abraham, you are youth pastor here.
Yep.
At Encourager Church. Irving, you're just like a man of many tasks and projects and skills.
I'll take that.
Big Mill, soon to be pastor of maybe a new project.
Yeah, absolutely.
No, he's like, hold on.
He's like, keep that on the DL, bro.
That part. Yeah. That's the,
Okay.
What's
Pastor Forever Church. Right
there it
now.
is.
Pastor
There it is.
Forever
That's what I was looking for. I
work for Baker
And
Ripley.
I'm leaving.
Yeah.
That was enough. Thank you guys. Have a good evening. Hope you enjoy the show.
Oh my goodness.
I just didn't know what the church was. That's all. But yeah, we were just hanging out here, and what was so cool is you said it right before this was someone calls, they swing by. I'm talking to you. You swing by, and just the community here. And I don't know about you guys, but before this whole pandemic started, I had community, but like, I guess you can say I was in my own bubble. And throughout this whole process, number one, whenever we're all together because of the pandemic, I was with my family more than ever, which was like such a blessing. And then after that, getting more into the church and into different relationships like this, it's been such a blessing. So I'm curious, for you as a pastor, beforehand, what was community like, and how has that shift been?
Yeah. When typically people talk about community, they're talking about two or three close people.
Mm-hmm.
They're never talking about hundreds or thousands. It's always proximity. And I mean, ask anybody. When they talk about community, they're usually talking about two or three people they want close to them. If you're a family, you want two or three families that are like you, same morals, same convictions, and you want to grow up with them. We grew up in a church of about 100 to 200 people maybe, but there was two families that we were really close with.
Mm-hmm.
And although I had a youth group of about 30 to 40, sometimes 60 kids, there was two kids that I was really close to. And that kind of helped me in community. That was my community. When I grew up with community, I think of these two specific families. For some people, it may be 3. Some people may be 4. So the importance of always having people in proximity just helps me feel like I have community. I grew up like that.
Yeah.
Which is why if it's 2 today, it's 5 tomorrow.
Yeah.
To me, it feels like that's community. And there's something special about having those people close, see you in your hard days, your bad days, your good days, your great days, have it all, right?
Yeah.
As humans, we're complex people, right?
Just a little.
Yeah, just, we have insecurities, we have doubts, we have failures. And I think it's all part of the beautiful humanity, It's part of the God-ordained plan for us to realize we need him, right?
Mm-hmm.
We need to rely on him for everything that we do. And community is vulnerable. It's difficult, but man, it's worth it. It's so worth it. So it's beautiful to see you even. Everywhere I see you, you're always talking to somebody new. Saw you at the coffee shop the other day. And
yeah.
You're always talking to somebody. You approached me. You helped us out the other day.
Yep.
You saved us, bringing a USB lightning adapter. But it's incredible.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And yeah, of course. And what's nuts is before the pandemic, that wasn't going on, which is just nuts. Yeah. And I don't know what that shift was. I mean, I had some really close friends of mine. They moved. They're doing business elsewhere. Those are like my business partners and big mentors. And we're still close, but we're not in proximity. They're not in the same city. So I have been branching out on my own, which has been amazing, hanging out with you guys. But it also makes me think of, it was just your birthday.
Yeah.
And what you had, like, that was so cool to go over to your place, first off, which was, nice of you to invite me, but just how you had community of your own. Mm-hmm. It was special. You just don't see that often like that. I mean, that was just really cool. So, has anything changed for you during this whole, process?
Well, some people might call it an insecurity, but I really like having people around me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it might be one of my faults. It might be one of those things where I continually like to know that I'm human, and I want to hear people's struggles all the time. I want to see how they interact with other people. I want to process that. I want to learn from it. From you already. I've only talked to you a number of times, and I've already learned some things from you.
Yeah.
Irving, Milton, Rick behind the camera. It's beautiful to just be with people. And to me, it might be something where it's like I said, like an insecurity. It's more the humanity aspect of it. It's beautiful to me. So when I met you, I'm like, the other day, someone was saying, hey, I was going to invite this person to your party. I just didn't know. They didn't know how you are, so I didn't bring them. And I'm like, they obviously don't know who I am, because if they did, they would come.
Yeah.
They would know that I'm open to whoever, whenever. My house is everyone else's house. Mm-hmm. When you talk about being in proximity with people, there's risks to take, which is in community, you always have to take risks. Man, I don't know this person, but I'm willing to take the risk. What's the worst that can happen? They can kill me. Great. We're going to die anyways. So I'm an optimist too, So for me, it's always thinking, let me take the risk. Hopefully it's worth it. And if it's not, I'll learn from it.
Yeah.
So that's why I'm so big about community.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
But
Irving, what do you think?
Yeah, I was about to actually point to you, because he was inviting me too. He's like, hey, I'm going to be at Abraham's thing. And it was cool because you're like, well, all right, yeah, come over. And I even asked about my sisters, and you said, I don't see why not. I was like, that's a cool answer. But what about you? Like, what have you seen through this whole?
Man, well, yeah, similarly to you, I think we're definitely all in a season where we're looking introspectively to see what's most important, what priorities are in our lives, and what's in front of us, and that really kind of comes out as being more intentional with our relationships, and how that kind of translates as to how we live our daily lives, And I was watching that new movie, Dune or Dune.
Yeah, Dune. Yeah.
And it's wild.
That looks good. Yeah.
Well, no, it's kind of weird. It's kind of a weird movie. I don't know that I got invited to. I don't know that I would have picked it up on my own, but I don't know where I just kind of start thinking about somewhere in the scenes. I start thinking about how the Bible says where 2 or 3 are gathered. In his name, there he is. The God, Lord is with us, and I'm just like, why was it 2 or 3? Like, why wasn't it like 20 or whatever? And obviously talking about the simplicity of the presence of God, but also it kind of led me to understand, like what you were saying, community happens with when it's deep and wide, right? So
Mhm.
so I've been watching Abraham's life. For we've known each other for what, almost 3 years now, and as he's talking, he's like, man, I always like to have people around me, or like two or a few.
Mhm.
But as dude, I'll be in Mobile, Alabama, meeting some cool coffee shop owner, and Abe's like, "Oh, dude, I know the owner of that shop," and da 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 da.
What?
And instantly, you can start to see that he has a deep relationship with Abraham. And so, as he's sharing, I just think about the love of God. It's deep and wide. As it is wide, it's deep. And it's, as we're talking about building relationship with small groups of people, I think it's only because when that verse talked about two or three, I think it talks about the intention of how deep you can go in a small setting, with two, three, four
Yep.
people, as opposed to thousands, and I don't think that's supposed to sway or kind of put away the thought that we're called to reach the masses, and we're commissioned to reach the world. But I think we go together in building community and relationship in small units, because that's where we can be vulnerable, right?
Yep.
And it's so beautiful that God is pulling us together in this season in small numbers, still building wide though,
Mhm. Mhm.
and I think that that's the season I'm currently in. Is I'm meeting, uh, I'm getting to know my pastor and his life, and through just catching his leadership, I'm able to see, oh, this dude is widely
Connected.
connected, but his relationships run deep,
Mhm.
and that's kind of like naturally how my relationships go. But I never saw the power of how it all ties in together until you start looking at someone else's life. You know what I mean?
Mm. Mhm.
So,
Yeah,
yeah.
that type of perspective.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's crazy because you somewhat remind me of one of my a couple of my friends and mentors. Yeah,
You said
it's
that.
the same thing. I mean, whenever I was around those guys, I just saw different. I saw relationships in a new way because it's so easy to just know people like, oh, I know him. You know what I mean? But for them to know your family, be to their house, having dinner. You know what I mean? Like that's you go to Mobile, Alabama, and he knows you. Like not just like, yeah, I follow him on Instagram. It's like, no, I know that guy. He knows some of my struggles. That's awesome. And I think there is a shift. I think like you said, we're going introspective. We had time to ourselves. We had time to be like, all right, what can I work on? You know what I mean? And I know that happened for me for sure. I mean, it's been an eye-opening process. So it's exciting, for sure. But I'm curious, like, what's your story been?
Well, pre-pandemic, I was working at a church in Galveston. I was there for about 7 years, working as a youth pastor. Um, and it's crazy because when I took the move to come start a church in Houston, that was in 2017, the end of 2017. I started hanging out with Abe, and it was crazy because we were just hanging out. This is when he was living in Edo in the east part of downtown, and we were going out there almost all the time.
Represent.
Before he moved out here to the boonies. No, I'm just kidding. So, I would go after work, go out there, go hang out, and when pandemic hit, man, I think it was more of a setup, because
Oh wow.
when pandemic hit, we weren't like my church wasn't ready to do anything online.
Mm-hmm.
And so one of the things that I did was like, man, I don't know what to do. And Abe right away was saying, bro, what are you talking about? We got all the equipment. We'll record it for you.
Wow.
Like without a hesitation, And I think that if you're not in a relationship, that's an awkward conversation, because now you're in, you're feeling like you're using people almost, or
Right.
you're,
that's
or you know
good.
what I'm saying? Or you're doing it with a different motive or intention.
Yeah.
Where whereas when you're in a relationship with people, it becomes one of those things where, hey, what I got is yours,
Mhm.
Right.
And so I think that it's important to be in a relationship, not because you're needing of things, but you never know when you're going to be in a situation when, you do need an extra hand or a helping hand up, and
It's,
I think for sure, that's one of the things that for me, just because I was in a community, I've known Abe for all his life, really,
Yeah.
and so it was an easy relationship to bounce into. And so, even though I've known him all his life, we've still been in relationship throughout the years. I'll call him, he'll call me out of the blue. We had a conversation when he was moving from being a cop to going to Bible school. Said, "What do you think, Mill?" I said, "Man, I think that's awesome. Do it." And just throughout the years, just having this conversation kept the relationship going. And I think that it's important, man, to build relationships, keep relationship, not because you want something, but just because you care about the person. You're like, man, this is a real cool dude, and that's the important thing is that we need to be in a relationship, because one day you're in a leader role, the next day you're in a follower role with the same person.
Wow.
You know what I mean? And so I've learned a lot from Abe, the last few years, and we've been in conversation. I said, man, before I used to be one of his youth leaders a long time ago, and I'm a few years older, well, a lot years older than him, and so now we're in the place where I'm like, man, Abe, sit back and teach me some stuff. What's going on with you, And I've told him before, hey man, if you ever start a church, man, I'm gonna go to that church,
That's awesome.
And so, and I think it's just building the relationships. Those are important. You got to be in a place where you understand that it's not about being prideful about what you think your position is. It's about just being in a position of growth, right?
Yeah.
In a position of saying, hey man, I can learn something from anybody.
Right.
Exactly.
And so I think we limit ourselves when we see people and we say, well, why is that person, who does he think he, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so being in a relationship is, humbling yourself and just saying, man, this person needs from me like I need from them, and I think it's beautiful. Like
it's
you were saying,
intimacy. I mean, it's true
Definitely.
intimacy. And it's so crazy what you said about not expecting something from somebody. We were talking about Brandon Barber before, and I was at Garden Oaks. He didn't preach this, but that's like a part of the message that hit me so hard was people in this new world of super digital media where we're all on our phones. We're really looking into, it's a different world after COVID. It's like you said, the church changed. I mean, we were talking about clothing and fashion. If you don't switch to digital, you're going to be left in the past. It's now starting to create a problem of you see people as a transaction. You see people as I'm trying to get something from you. And I was like, oh my gosh, because I know I look at things like that. Sometimes I have my business cap on way too much and I see it as a transaction, or I see it as, okay, I can get something from you. Of course, I'm still thinking of a reciprocity. What can I give to you? But I'm thinking in that mindset instead of, just being there, just having the intimacy. You know what I mean? What do y'all think about that?
Dude, I love that, dude. Something that's been highlighted so much these past couple of days has been, we're not called to follow our passion. We're called to follow Jesus. And that really kind of speaks to what you're saying is like, what does it mean to follow Jesus? It means to lay down one's life for his cause and what's important to him, what's on his heart, and to minister to him and to look towards him daily. And that removes the selfishness from us in terms of like going about your day. Okay, who am I going to meet? Which relationship am I going to capitalize on today?
Yep.
And I think that's when you really start building intentional relationships. And I like how the topic of conversation is community and relationships. As Milton and I are just sharing, it's easy to kind of throw out an Abraham example.
Yeah.
And I just think it's funny because it's just it's easier to see on other people, and it's so good when the relationships around you are just easy examples to draw on when we're at the topic of conversation.
Well, when you think about what the core of relationship is supposed to be, right? It's supposed to be love.
Yes.
Right. And how does the Bible define love? Love is patient, right? When you think about patience, what is that? It's another word for long suffering, right?
Wow.
So that means that in the middle of friendship, you're gonna have to endure some pain. You're gonna have to endure some issues. You're gonna have to be waiting on the fruit, right? And so if somebody's not where you want them to be, that you just discard them, no. You wait on it, right? Love is patient. Love is kind. It doesn't envy. It doesn't boast. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking, right? So it's not about,
Wow.
you know, hey, what can I get from this person? It's I'm in relationship with this person. The Bible tells me to love. Love says that it's not about me, it's about them.
Man.
So what can I do for them? What can I give them? What can I how can I how can I be the part in their life that they say that they can point to and say, man, because of him, I was able to grow here.
Wow.
Because of them, not they were able to profit off of me, but because of them, I was able to grow. And I think that for me, for me, to be honest with you, that's the most challenging part because I think deep down, I'm probably a very selfish person. And so
We're human.
I'd say we
yeah,
all are.
and
Yeah,
so
in a
yeah,
way.
it's a little difficult. It's something that I'm intentionally trying to work on. Right,
You're aware
So
of it.
I'm aware of it, and I know it, and I'm trying to be better at it. Right,
Right.
but I'm also in relationship with friends that are very like aware that they're giving.
Giving.
They're very giving.
Yes.
And a lot of my friends, they're the opposite of me. So a lot of my real good friends are very giving and very like, hey, Mill, what do you need? I got you, bro. You know, and those are the relationships that I'm like, man, God, I want to be like that. I want to be better.
Yes.
And so how do I become that, what they are to me, to others, right? And so I think that that's important to understand in the relationship is what does the Bible say about love?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, no, I mean, because I think of also no expectations. You know, you go to meet with somebody, or even like this, like I didn't have the expectation of like, hey, I want to sit down and I want to do a podcast.
Yeah.
It's like you let the space, you just give space, and it's like, hey, what do you want to do with it, really? But that's what I first think of too. But it's so cool because that actually reminds me of the message this past weekend. Whenever they're talking about the relationships, it's what is love.
And you know, honestly, the sometimes relationships are easy, right? Because you go to a church, people are around you, and it's easy to build those kind of relationships. But when you don't have those opportunities, you know, you have to be intentional about seeking out. For me, I'm very intentional about seeking out. I know Abe's busy. Abe is one of my closest friends in Houston, and I talk about Abe a lot because I do call him a lot, and I reach
He's
out
a brother,
to him
yeah.
because I know if I call Abe, he's going to be like, yeah, come through, right? And I'm very intentional about looking for him, searching for him. And not only him, but I have other friends that, you know, some of my closest friends don't live in Houston.
Oh wow.
So my closest friends live, you know, in other parts of Texas. And in Houston, I think Abe is one of my closest friends in Houston, right?
awesome.
So that's why I got to be intentional about keeping that relationship. How do you fan that flame? How do you know what I'm saying? So when we go out, it's not, you know, I want to treat Abe to eat or he treats me out to eat. So it's one of those things where I don't want him to feel like it's one way, right? And so sometimes you do have to be intentional about seeking out the relationships you wish. And, you know, I'm going to be honest, sometimes I'm an introvert at times. I come out as an extrovert and I come out as outgoing. And when I'm around people, I am outgoing. But when I'm by myself, I love my privacy, man. But that's dangerous. That's dangerous, man.
Yes.
To be able to love you too much, you know, too much of your alone time is dangerous, man, because,
Wow.
you know, we're not built to do life alone. You know, we're built to do life together in fellowship.
Which brings me to my next question, which is where do you see community going now? You know, life has changed. You know, we're seeing the growth in it, but like, where do you see it going? You know, because I forget the saying or the quote that's going around since COVID, but basically nothing will ever be the same, right? So where do you see community? Yeah, the new norm. That's exactly what I was thinking. Yeah, this is the new norm that we live in. Where do you see that going now for community, for the church, for, you know, just in general?
I would hope it would be in this way, where each one of us represent different organizations, churches, ministries, whatever you want to call it, but yet we come together. We make space
Yes.
for this time.
Yes.
And I always tell people this, and if you've been around me, you've heard it, but I always say, I don't want you to come to my church. I just want to see you throughout the week.
Hey.
Like, I don't want you to come Sunday morning.
Yes.
We have people Sunday morning. You have people, but I do want to see you Monday. I do want to see you Tuesday. Can we go eat? Because that, in my opinion, helps us become better leaders and lead our communities, serve our communities, wherever we're called to, business owner, church founder, whatever you are. We can serve others better when the leaders of the city come together and say, hey, we're laying down what we represent for community. Hey, how are you struggling? Are you doing okay? So
that makes me think of the idea I had before we started this, and I wanted to save it for this, but that's one thing I picked up from you. And it's it's something that I felt in my own heart, because I know some people may be like, okay, you go to this church, only go to this church, like you shouldn't be popping around, right? I don't know, I've heard that before, but then I'm like, dude, I know I want to go see, I want to see other people. Sometimes Sundays are the only time I can see, but that's one thing I picked up from you is that ideology. I haven't heard you say that, but it's like, you come to my church, cool, but that does not mean we don't do life together if you don't come, and I think that is the shift. Like you've done so many events here where you brought all the churches together, bringing community together.
Wow.
And I think that's where I see the shift coming. And I like me personally. So that's awesome. That's
Absolutely.
really cool.
And I was gonna say, I think that to some part, look, you do need to have roots somewhere. You need to be
Yes.
discipled.
100%.
You need to have a church where you
Grounded.
serve and you're grounded and you're leading, right? But outside of that, right? We're not talking about someone who's not just being discipled or being led. But yeah, you should have relationships outside, right? It's not about competition. It's not this church versus that church.
Yeah.
Or it's
Exactly.
about how a collaborative movement.
Yeah.
What Abe was referring to, us working together for the kingdom, right? It's not about me building my kingdom. It's
Wow.
about building
Mhm.
God's kingdom.
Exactly.
Right? So.
Man,
Yeah, it does something for the community when they see. And I always, Rick, he's my nephew, and
cool.
and the one that's shooting the camera now.
Yeah.
But
The producer.
usually he's around all the time, and I say, hey, take a picture of me with this guy. Take a picture of me with this person, and they make fun of me. It's very like grandpa-ish to do that, but I do it because of the power of when I post. And you see these
Togetherness.
connections
Yes.
of, oh, wait a minute, he's with them, so he's tied to this.
Mhm.
And you talk a lot. I always say this, but you talk a lot without saying anything.
Mhm.
You came into the space saying, I really like the space.
Mhm.
I hadn't said a word.
Mhm.
Hey, I like this. I like how you do this. You don't know much about me, but you've already had this idea and you've seen what I'm about.
Mhm.
And I think our lives should be that.
Yeah.
Yes.
We should be able to speak with what we do, our decisions that we make,
Mhm.
who we represent, the events we put together.
Mhm.
That way, when you sit down, you say, Abe, I have this idea. Now let me hear if it is this, know? And I hope you can
Wow.
confirm that it is what you thought it was,
Yeah.
Wow.
But so yeah, I think for me, it's just representing, unity, even if it's something as simple as I just sat down with Trey, we took a photo showing the city. At one point, we've been together, so
Mhm.
That's
there's
great.
so much power in that. But go
Yeah.
ahead, you were gonna say something.
No. I was just thinking. They say culture or just any atmosphere is built by a designer by default.
Mhm.
And typical musician story 10 years ago or so, I wanted to either move to Nashville or LA, out of Houston. Typically that happens here in our city.
Mhm.
And gladly I went to LA. I hated it. I think if I would have gone to Nashville first, I would have stayed there.
Yeah.
But I came back from LA just dreaming with God, talking to God, just asking him, God, what do you want me to do? How do you want me to build? And I was just at a point in my life where I was really trying to see the future, 10, 20 years. And I just felt God lead me into building intentionally what I saw in Nashville, what I saw in LA here, and I just thought to myself, man, that makes so much sense. Nashville wasn't built up out of the blue. It was people coming together
Yes.
intentionally all over the city saying, hey, let's build our city to where musicianship or the industries that thrive there do so,
Mhm.
and I'm ecstatic to hear people's hearts now in this season, and probably one of the most darkest seasons we've experienced,
Mhm.
talk about just that same principle,
Mhm.
and it's so cool to even hear my pastor say that because recently studying when Nehemiah was commissioned to rebuild the Jerusalem wall, his strategy was so simple. He just told the priests, hey, basically he told them, as soon as you walk out of your door, the part of the wall you see in front of you, build that part.
Wow.
And it was so cool because they were all in one intention, one purpose, but they were all individually in their own section. And I think that's what Abraham's talking about.
Mm.
And it's so cool to hear that. And thinking back 10, 12 years ago, feeling that intention or that draw from God saying, hey, build Houston that way. Or
Yes.
build Houston where you see Nashville or LA happen. That's what we're doing, I think.
Yeah.
We're coming together in relationship with people from the east side, from Katy, from the north side, from Pasadena, all these, Angleton, Galveston, and saying, hey, let's do relationships together. We're pulling for you, but then serving as encouragement and just spending time together for the simple purpose of, hey, let's go back and be intentional about building where we're planted, building what's right in front of us.
I love that. I think we have 2 minutes left on the timer, Trey, so you can close it out. Yeah. But I'll say this. I learned this from a pastor recently, and I've said it multiple times, but I steal things, and I keep them forever. I don't copy them. I steal them. And he said, when I meet a new person, when I'm in a relationship with someone new, I feel richer. And today, I think Milton and Irving and us, we could say that we're richer.
Oh, yeah.
Being with you in the room.
Thank you.
We want to thank you. We love you.
Yeah, I love y'all.
And work smarter, not harder. Have smart people around you.
Let me add one thing. That we need to get out of our churches. Out of our homes. Yeah. We need to go back to church. If we don't, we're going to be complacent, and we're going to be building superficial relationships that are based on something we see and not something we live. So we need to go back, build relationships in the churches.
Yeah, and I'll just say this. I know we got like maybe 30, but where do we see, or where can people, like y'all are doing your own thing to build community? What is that for you now? Like, how can they connect with what you are doing?
Yeah, just Instagram, just our names, right? Abraham Guajardo, Irving Chavez, Milton Guardado, and Trey
Martinez.
Trey Martinez.
LLL. Martinez.
Awesome. Thank y'all.
I love it.
It's all about community. And what's so great, like you heard, is it's about being deep, but also wide, sharing relationships, sharing connections with a lot of people. But one thing that I like to cherish is maybe I may not see someone all the time, but whenever I'm with them, I am with them. And it's just me and this person, or me and the community. And I hope that this brought you some great tips, some insights, some joy, and just a reminder of, hey, the people around you mean a lot, and yes, they may be up and down, and you see the good, the bad, the ugly, but through it all, if you look back at the decisions you made with some of these people that are in your life and that you've chosen to continue to have them in your life, you'll recognize that, hey, it's pretty good. It's pretty good, and you can't complain. So anyway, with that, I just wanted to bring some quick joy to you, and something I'm looking forward here in 2022 is building more community. If those of you had the opportunity to go to the All God Experience, thank you. I hope you had a blast, and I know I sure did. And with that, I saw community come together here in Houston, Texas, and I'm looking forward to doing that much, much more. And also, if you're not, here in Houston, I do have a Discord. It's called Everlasting Change, and it's a free group. I highly recommend for you to join into it, where we talk about mind, body, spirit. I've completely set up the platform, and again, it is free. I actually have a ton of free resources for you, and some amazing partnerships and I'll say affiliates that I've partnered with, and looking forward to kind of getting y'all's hands. But regardless, it's a community where I just want people to get plugged in together, to share some insights in the mind, body, spirit. And it's brand new. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm looking to expand that here in 2022. So with that said, I highly recommend for you to join it. You'll see the link down in the description. And also, you'll be able to see it if you follow me on Instagram at TreyMartinez_LLL. So with that said, I hope you are setting those goals. I hope you've got your Q1 map ready to roll. I call it a fact map through what I've learned with Warrior. And if you do want to learn about that, I do have that info in the Discord too. But regardless, hey, it's Q1 2022. What are you going to do to expand in your mind, your body, and your spirit? I'd love to hear it from you. Tag me on Instagram, drop it in a comment below, or just shoot me a message. So with that said, I love you, I appreciate you, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.